Well, into the chaos of Bangui, the capital of the Central African Republic tonight. Two presidents, the president of this country and the president of France, in talks at the airport. Francois Hollande can't really go beyond the airport. That would absolutely put his life in danger. He says tonight he knew this would be a dangerous mission. It is on course, but it was necessary to prevent, as he put it, carnage. Well, there were many who would say there is already carnage on the streets. I have to say at this point, Channel 4 News has taken the decision tonight to show the death of a UN peacekeeper in full as a way of really bringing home to people the context of the extraordinary eruptions of violence which happen around this town, often with no warning whatsoever. This morning we had set out simply to do what people do all over the world, to drive from their place of rest to the airport in a capital city. That is not easy in Bangui.
It is just after 8 a.m. But this morning, no sign of the French army, whose checkpoints were so visible on the main routes here yesterday. Apart from the usual aid vehicles, only African peacekeepers out this morning on an anti-looting patrol. We should warn you, some viewers may find what happens moments later extremely disturbing. Suddenly, one of their vehicles cuts us up.
Who's that?
And stops just ahead.
Just stop. Stop. Get back in. Reverse. He shot his own man, I think.
Slowed down, it's revealed as chaos, a shambles. No proper firing positions. It's highly likely these men had shot their own man dead.
Get back in. Reverse.
In this same area, aptly called the Quartier Combattant, the fighters' district, 2 French soldiers were killed overnight. And that just illustrates how these streets can go from apparent tranquility to extreme violence in a matter of seconds. It is quite clear it is mob rule on the streets of the capital here today. The African peacekeepers apparently cannot keep a lid on it or control it. The French aren't even here on the streets. This morning, driving away from where the peacekeeper had been shot, a large plume of smoke not a mile away. In the mass sectarian fury unleashed over this capital in recent days, a mosque ransacked and looted by a Christian mob, armed with the obvious machetes and who knows what else. One man says it's all a response to Muslim militia attacking the Christians here.
Yesterday evening, the Muslims took out their weapons and they shot at the civilian population. All Muslims in our neighbourhood are well armed at the moment. They have weapons in their mosques, in their houses, and they shot at civilians. That's why the people got angry and destroyed their mosque.
Visceral religious hatred, they were mocking their Muslim neighbours at prayer. This morning, in a recorded radio message, the US president pleaded for Muslim and Christian communities here to come together.
Respected leaders in your communities, Muslim and Christian, are calling for calm and peace. I call on the transitional government to join these voices and to arrest those who are committing crimes.
The Americans pledged to help, flying in African peacekeepers here from Burundi. The British are already flying logistical and military equipment to help the 1,000 French peacekeepers here. But how long till these people get the help they desperately need? The 17,000 camped out in a monastery not far from where we're staying. Today an NGO attempted to get food to them. They didn't have enough food. They were terrified there would be a riot. There probably would have been. How long will they have to wait before the world gives them what they need?
Well, live now with Alex in Bangui. Alex, you described most vividly, horrifically, the situation on the streets earlier today. What's the situation tonight?
Well, an interesting question, night and day, John. Let me paint the two for you briefly if I can. By day, the Christians who felt oppressed by the recent days and days of killings before the French established their presence here are emboldened by the French out on the streets, as we've seen, pillaging, attacking Muslim businesses, Muslim shops, Muslim and so forth, and as we've seen, mosques, and abusing the Quran very graphically. Some images of that which we've decided not to show you tonight. By night, things change. The Seleka Muslim militia, unable to have their arms openly on the streets in hours of daylight. After the curfew, still, we are told, going house to house, picking up people, killing them, macheting them to death. Médecins Sans Frontières said even in the course of the last 24 hours, 72 people admitted to their hospital, which is already overwhelmed, frankly, mostly with gunshot wounds. It is still going very much on as it has been.
Well, now, President Hollande, who we saw here earlier in South Africa, landed with you tonight, as you reported. Now, does he really think that intervention, particularly on the scale in which the French are involved, mere 1,600 troops, is actually going to change the whole balance of events there?
Well, of course, he's not saying that it's going to. He's being very straightforward and direct about it. He said, as you say, 1,600. He said the number will not increase beyond that. He's described this as a quick intervention, but he's saying tonight there was no doubt that it was always going to be dangerous, and he's having to respond, of course, to the first French losses in that mission. I think there is a sense, as he has said, this is France's duty as he sees it, and coming off Mali, of course, and the intervention there, the French feel a certain degree of confidence about doing these sorts of things, notably lacking these days in the United States, by contrast, and perhaps in the UK too. So that's the impetus behind it. France is doing everything it can as it sees it, but it is limited. This is a huge country, and the presence even on the streets of the capital can't contain the violence.
Alex Thomson live in the capital, Bangui, of the Central African Republic.